Hi, it's Mark Murphy, and this is TravelTube.com. And today I've got another travel expert who's going to talk to you about a couple of products she's recently experienced, as well as something that's pretty exciting that's coming up in May. And without further ado, let me invite Shannon Bonadurer to the stage. And there she is. Shannon Bonadurer, how are you?
Good. How are you, Mark?
I'm doing great. Great to have you. Thanks for taking time out of your day.
Absolutely.
And you I don't want to disclose too much, but just for everyone, everyone knows there are people that will, as long as they're breathing, will just always want to talk travel, want to sell travel. And this lady was doing it from a hospital bed. So, as the nurse goes by, excuse me, nurse, whoa, do you need something? No, I just want to know if you got any travel plans that I can help you with. And so we just had a little fun conversation pre-podcast here. So you are a go-getter, man.
I am. I've been right from day one. I am one of three children my parents had. I'm the one that jumps right into the middle of the lake, and my siblings kind of are on the shore. So
you do it. All right.
Yeah.
Well, so we're not going to jump into a lake, but we're going to jump into the ocean, right?
Yes.
So Royal Caribbean, just in general, the brand, what is it about the brand that you as a travel advisor, you like and love? And then what does that bring to your clients, generally speaking? And what type of client do you typically recommend Royal Caribbean for?
Well, the beauty about Royal Caribbean is they have so many ships that they really do. They appeal to everybody. I mean, you can put really any family, single, bachelorette parties, themed parties, 80s themes, you name it, you can do that there. And for me, Royal Caribbean has always come back when we do the follow-ups with our clients, is that they felt they've got the most bang for their buck with every cruise they've done. And what we see is if you become a Royal Caribbean client, you are forever a Royal Caribbean client. And that is because they always elevate it up to the next level with every class of ship they come up with. Right when you think, how can they come up with anything more or better? Here they are. And they've come up with, again, the world's largest ships, all of these islands and experiences, and the little beach club area they just built in Nassau. I mean, it is amazing what this brand does, because they listen to their clients, they listen to their travel agency partners. And that's really what they go on when they're building and deciding how they're going to construct a brand new class of ship. And with every class that you have where, if you want more of a laid back experience, if you want a weekender, if you need something with the kids, but yeah, you can separate from the kids and there's not characters and things like that going on, Royal Caribbean is your cruise line.
So interesting enough. And you said that they consult with travel agents.
Yes.
And they want to get some feedback about what the customers obviously are looking for, because one call to you and they can get that dynamic feedback that you've been getting over the years from hundreds of clients who've traveled with them or have considered it. But one of the things you just said, which is always interesting, it's like, oh, the world's largest cruise ship. Now that's, in some people, that's great. And some people, you get the objection of, oh man, it's like, I don't want to be on like a crowded ship. So I'm sure you get that objection. How do you handle that when a client says, you know what, how many people are going to be on that ship? And do I want to go on that?
Exactly. The one thing that we do as an agency is I make sure myself and all of our agents experience the destination, experience the ship, because it's really important. I can get all kinds of demographics and numbers and logistics and everything from the brand itself. But if we're not on there experiencing it and asking the questions, how can I really answer that truthfully to that client? So when we were asked to come on to Icon of the Seas, it wasn't completely at capacity, but we were only 1,000 people away from capacity. And one of the things that I always like to ask is, while this is a preview cruise and you're giving me everything up front that's always amazing and fantastic, will my clients receive the same thing, the same experience when they get on board? I mean, the lobster tail towers and all of these things. And absolutely 100% what I'm seeing is what my client is going to get. Now, they have innovated new technology when it comes to their elevators. We actually had an opportunity by chance. The woman who designed the elevator system for Icon was on the elevator. And I was able to take some time to speak with her about how she did that. And when you look at a ship that is that big, and I've seen it, besides being on it, I actually watched it go out of port. When you're seeing all of the other ships go out, the Icon has to take its time because it creates such a wave coming out of the port of Miami. It's crazy. But we asked the technology and all of the people that are going to be on this, how much more crowded could it be? It wasn't crowded at all. They really took into account how to really utilize that space and make it so that you don't have that feeling. Like, I've been on cruise ships before where it's felt really crowded and you just can't breathe. There's just too many people at the buffet or at the dinners and that. And Royal Caribbean made sure that they didn't do that. And that was really, really nice to see. Now, I've been on smaller ships of Royal Caribbean. And again, I really think it's the placement of how they design the ships and where they put everything in the promenades and the dining areas and the pools and all of that. Quite honestly, we were on the go from 6 a.m. till 3 a.m. every night, every day. And I still didn't get to see everything on Icon.
Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
So what stood out to you on the ship? Like, what was the thing that you were like, wow, this is unbelievable?
Well, one was the size of the staterooms. The size of the staterooms. This particular ship has what's called the infinity balcony, where it's not really a balcony, but the window goes up and down. And I thought, okay, what is this going to be like? I love to have a balcony. I want to open the door. I want to have that fresh air. Well, we still had table, we had chairs, we had that extra space. I didn't have to worry about it raining or anything getting wet. And I had extra room to put luggage if I needed to, of all things.
But they basically just pushed it out.
They did. It was a brilliant idea to do that. And then, so parents with smaller children, you're not going to worry about the possibilities of a child climbing up and over, right? You're not going to have those problems. And we could leave the window cracked open and you could just get a breeze without having anything else like, fly in or do anything like that. I thought that was really brilliant. The size and the room capacity that they made. Royal Caribbean and their bathrooms sometimes were known for having like shower curtains versus a glass door, those types of things. That's all gone. The bathrooms were a really good size. You had a glass door. The customer service, again, always stellar. But what there was to do on that ship, there was so much to do, especially for families, kids. While they had their own area, there was still so much for anybody to want to do. It wasn't just eat, drink, go to the casino.
Right.
That makes a huge difference. The music hall, Phoenix, I got to tell you, if you ever have an opportunity to see Phoenix play, they are 100% amazing. They cover every band possible, the comedy clubs, everything. It was iconic.
And hence the name, right? Hence the name.
Exactly. They really lived up to that name.
So for other travel advisors, what would you tell them if a customer comes in the door and they're trying to figure out, they're not sure what they want to do. They want like a warm weather type of destination. Maybe they haven't cruised before. Maybe this would be the first time. How would you approach a first-time cruiser? Because we know, like, why don't you share some of the objections you get from someone who's never taken a cruise? It might be in their 30s or 40s and potentially with kids.
Absolutely. The very first thing I get is motion sickness. how am I going to get sick? What's going to happen if I do get sick? How is that handled? What am I going to do? Getting lost on the ship. And that is a big to do. I've been on tinier ships and I've gotten lost on those ships than I could on the Icon. I literally tried to get lost on the
All right,
Icon.
hold on. So people tell you they get lost on ships
They get lost on ships.
and you have to send like a rescue party?
Pretty much. They have to go back down to guest services if they can find their way to that in order to find, because on a lot of ships, people don't realize that sometimes ships will change the carpet, right? So if the fish is swimming forward or going the other direction, that's going to tell you where you're at, right? But we do get those clients that don't pay attention. They're already partying and ready to go. They do get lost and wander around. Thank God that there is food and drink elsewhere so they can still
they can just
survive.
just go find another bar. Go talk to the bartender.
Someone will show you to your room eventually. You will get there.
Yeah, you'll get put to bed if you're out too late. You'll get cut off too.
You will get cut off. Absolutely.
So what are some of the objections that you hear about cruising? Obviously, you talked about seasickness, that people are afraid they're going to get, motion sickness. With people like I have that problem, but I've been on dozens of cruises. What is it that people swear by when it comes to seasickness and avoiding it?
A lot of them say doing the Eastern Caribbean itineraries because of the way the Straits of Florida flow with that current. And you're going forward and backwards instead of side to side when you are in the Western Caribbean. That makes a huge, huge difference. And it is a really huge selling point that I use all the time, because when I went out on my very first cruise, I was extremely terrified of that. Nobody wants to go on vacation and get sick. You don't want to do that. I always recommend having the Dramamine, the Benadryl, just in case, getting the patch. They do have those there on the ship as well that you're able to use. But one of the other hurdles is guests are afraid of being left behind at another country's port. And when you don't say necessarily have a passport, so you are doing a closed loop cruise or you're not doing a closed loop cruise, it can get a little touchy with that if you don't have a passport. And right now, if you don't, if you're not booking an excursion through the cruise line and you're not at the ship, we've seen all of those videos on social media of people running for their lives to get back to the ship as it pulls away, and they are shocked that the ship left them.
Well, I think I posted, it's like people don't get, like the cruise ship doesn't leave early. It tells you when it's going to leave. It tells you when the all aboard time is. And if you are running after the ship, that ship isn't going to wait for you. They got pilot boats. They've got dock time. They're leaving. And then, so it's almost like when I hear somebody fell off a ship. People don't fall off ships, folks. They jump off or they get thrown off. Like there's only two ways to get off the ship if you're not taking the plank, and getting off at a disembarkation point.
Absolutely true.
And what I don't get is like, the headlines, woman falls off, XYZ cruise ship. That something just happened in the Bahamas just recently, which is horrible. But so these people got left behind, and I posted something on Twitter or wherever. And of course I get the email, my family, blah, 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 blah. And how dare you? And like how offensive I am and this and that. I was like, oh, okay, well, there's no guarantee. And to your point, I don't think most customers realize if they book a shore excursion with somebody other than the ship, which you will save money on.
You will.
Then it's on you. And if that truck breaks down on the way back or whatever it is that you're doing and they don't get you back on time, they're not paying. No. And Royal Caribbean's not waiting and you're just stuck.
And a lot of times, sometimes those third parties, Mark, they can be in cahoots with other hotels, things like that, just to, so you got to stay the night, keep your money, fly to the next port in order to be able to catch up, with your ship. Sometimes it's a game.
That's insane. I've never, honestly, in all my years, 3 decades of this, I've never heard somebody mention that.
Yeah.
So, and is that something
I've seen it happen?
You've actually seen it happen?
I've actually seen it happen. I have a really he's an amazing friend and VIP client of mine. And just recently he was going on the Icon and he had messaged and said, Shannon, I don't like any of the excursions they're doing. You know me. I want to do this. I want to do that. And I said, John, you're not a great manager of your time. You're not. And I'm not going to take that responsibility. So if you book it on your own, then it's on you, because I'm not going to get that text message that says, we missed the ship, Shannon. What do we got to do? So
unbelievable.
yeah.
So where does the idea that there's a little bit of coordination sometimes, and you might just be intentionally left behind?
What we noticed, and it happened to be with a couple of clients that was on a Carnival cruise, and we had them they were going Western Caribbean, and they were one of them was Grand Cayman, and a couple of others were over near Mexico, Cancun area. And it happened to be just a random third party tour company, even though the resort kind of said, hey, listen, we've known them to be okay, but we've seen some things in the past where they have really delayed the clients getting back to port. And just so that you know and you are aware, well, it wasn't too much longer, I'd say about 6 months, when the first client had the problem. And they kept saying they left early, left on time, and yet he seemed to be lost where he was driving them. And it was into the worst traffic and all of this. And he's like, oh, don't worry, you'll be okay, because I'll set you up with a friend of mine who owns a hotel. You'll be all set. No. And then you'll be able to get to the next port. Don't worry. And 2 more times did that happen. And now we have a disclaimer when we are quoting and booking to let the guests know, while they can more than well go ahead and handle an excursion on their own, we can't be responsible for it. We just can't do it, because people are out there and that can happen.
Will you book the third party excursion, or will you just tell them to do it themselves? So the disclaimer isn't even, hey, we're going to book you on this. It could be a problem. It's like the disclaimer is, look, we'd love to help you, but since you want to go that road, you're going to have to resolve that on your own.
You are, because when you think about it, you're not necessarily taking your passport off with you from the ship. You've got your ID card that you're going to have, because we've had clients have their passports stolen while they're out and about. And all of that, and your medicines and things go with the ship. They're not packing you up and leaving it there. And if you're disabled or need medications that on an hourly, daily basis, whatever it is, you're going to be in a world of trouble trying to get to that next port.
Wow. Okay. That's that could be terrifying. It's like putting your medicine in checked bags. You lose your bag. You know what I mean?
And there was a family just recently, the kids were still on the ship and the parents were late to get back and the ship took off.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
and then of course the media loves to slam the cruise line, because that's what the media does. And that's why we have Travel Tube here, because it's like none of this crap is going to be it's going to be the way it is. You know what I mean?
No, it costs the cruise lines major money every minute that they stay at that dock that they're not supposed to. And that family, I'm sorry, is not going to want to pony up $50,000 to go ahead and make that ship wait for them.
Wait an hour. Yeah, here's $50K. Costs a little more than the trip. Exactly. I could have flown around the world in first class, but yeah.
Right. Just get back on time.
Right. So there's also the Icon of the Seas, which is from a different class of ships. And they're like the babies now. That was like the massive class that came out, but now you got Icon. So Utopia of the Seas. Talk about that.
Utopia of the Seas is, while I will say it is a somewhat of a carbon copy of Icon, it's obviously smaller, but not by much. However, the way they designed it on the inside, they designed it like the Oasis class, where if you step on the promenade of the Icon, it's huge. I've never seen a promenade this large, and you could fit the Titanic in the promenade of the Icon. So Icon got narrower, or not Icon, sorry, Utopia got narrower. And it really is, I would say it is the biggest weekend. It is a weekend party ship while you still have all of, Sorrento's Pizza, you've got the water, shows, you've got all of these things. The staterooms were designed like Icon, but they didn't have those infinity.
Oh, they have the standard balconies.
Correct.
Yep.
You still had the Central Park area and those things, but they were smaller. Where the Icon, I have to say, the family side, surf side, that was family. They had their own water park, Mark. They had a pool. Yep. They had their own water park. They had everything they could possibly need. So Utopia itself, it really is for that. You want that quick weekend. Instead of going out to Vegas, you're going to get on a cruise ship. It goes out of Port Canaveral. So easy in and out. We know how Port Canaveral works, and those flights to Orlando are not very, very expensive. It just seemed on the scale of the Icon, things were just a little bit smaller and not as much variety of things to do. But really what they're marketing to is that younger crowd, middle-aged, wanting to get away with the boys and the girls, just to go ahead and have a good weekend away.
And that's because it does the shorter sailings as opposed to the longer ones.
Yes, you do go to Perfect Day at Coco Cay, which, let's face it, I've been on many private islands with many of the different other brands. The Coco Cay Perfect Day, it is a perfect day. It is like nothing I had ever seen before. It is a great place. Even if you own a company, you want to take your staff to go ahead and do team building, that island right there is awesome. You don't have to walk if you don't want to. Everything is done.
So like for a small business, like I used to take my employees down to, in most cases, to Mexico. We stayed at an all-inclusive. We would, do a few hours of work in the morning, and then we'd have some fun and team building exercises in the afternoon. We did one years ago when I worked for somebody else. We went to Disney and we stayed at I think the Grand Floridian, and we were going to do boat races, but the temperature was like 50 degrees out. It was really windy, and where you build the boat out of cardboard, 2 4x8 pieces of cardboard, I think a roll of duct tape, a broomstick, a sheet, magic markers. You do a boat parade. And then you race the boats, and some were obviously, they just sunk, and actually some stayed up. And one lady got in it, and she weighed about 90 pounds, and she started paddling and pushing herself away from shore because I overrode with their permission. I said, we went out, and they're like, it's too rough. We can't really do the lake. We don't want to have it out there. We're gonna have to do it in the pool. And I was like, come on, man, the lake would be so much better. They got clearance. We did it. She pushed off from shore, and then within 12 seconds, she was probably 100 yards offshore, just caught by the wind, and she just went. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Disney wasn't real happy with that vendor. I didn't take any blame. But that's a cool idea for like even like family reunions, any kind of small group, because that stuff's always a good time. What kind of cost do you incur to set something like that up there, and how much lead time do you need?
Well, lead time, you would need at least a few months, quite honestly, but it is super simple to put together. And basically what you're going to do is you're going to rent certain areas of Coco Cay and host those team building. I mean, they've got kind of like rock climbing things, and it almost reminds me of like the old kids show, like Double Dare situation. You're going to be able to do all of these things. They've got their own wave pool, and it was just, there was something for everybody, whether you needed a cabana, you wanted to do nothing but be all adults. And then they have a stunt plane show that goes on. I mean, to put together something like that for a company, you're probably looking at maybe $5,000, and you're going to be able to do 3-4 hours worth of team building in your own area where no one's going to bother you, and they're going to bring you food and drink and all of those things that you need. So it's great. Their departments working with companies has been astounding.
That's really cool. Okay, interesting. So we'll shift out of cruises for a second, and we'll go to land-based vacations. And there's a big opening coming up, and you said you're going to be there.
Yes.
So let's talk about Universal Epic.
Universal Epic. It is getting ready to open, and my gosh, what Universal Studios has done. They have really taken, I mean, I know they've made a couple of other announcements here recently about, the park in Texas and everything else, but they are taking the ball and they are running with it. And Epic, it's really going to be for anybody and everybody, right? You're talking about the Wizarding World of Harry Potter with the Ministry of Magic, and Super Nintendo World, How to Train Your Dragon, the Dark Universe. It's going to have all of those retro monsters of things. There's going to be some thrill rides, and there's going to be where, you're driving your Mario Kart and you're hitting the question cubes and stuff. But with that, along with that, they ended up creating more hotels, which beautifully done, absolutely beautifully done, right? Universal really does well with those, and that it's a mile away. So Epic Universe is a mile away from where Universal Studios and Islands of Adventure is. And they are actually building lanes for their own busing. So currently right now, without having those lanes built, it takes about 12 minutes to get from one of the other already, well-known hotels at Universal to get to Epic Universe.
Mm-hmm.
But what Universal has done is they are making it attendance driven. So they are not going to overload the park with a bunch of guests, because they saw what happened when they opened up Harry Potter the first time. While being on the news and having all those news crews looked really great, right? All of those guests were there. It was a nightmare for Universal. So they had plenty of time to figure this out. And there's going to be VIP packages available. You're going to be able to do those VIP tours and have that VIP access. But right now it's kind of sticking to a one-day situation of being at Epic. They want everyone to have that chance, but
oh, interesting. So you can only do the one day at this point.
You can only do the one day right now. Now you can add and make that a VIP tour if you want to do that. You can add VIP Express, of course, as well. But you're going to need to understand that unless you're staying like at Stella Nova or any of that, you're going to take a little bit of a bus ride. But again, it's 12 minutes. We've been on bus rides at other theme parks that take 25 minutes to a half hour, if not more, right?
Absolutely.
It's not going to be that hard. And the restaurants that they've built for this, that they're going to be having, the steak, the seafood, oh my gosh, they have come up with so much. And they've taken some things that they've used. So say with the Dark Universe, there's a couple of sandwiches and things that they have usually at Halloween Horror Nights that they're bringing to the Dark Universe that everybody raves over. There's one like orange chicken sandwich thing, and it's got like a black bun, but it is the most delicious chicken sandwich I've ever had. And
wow.
so they took that step up. What they really bothered them at first, and I was speaking with my BDM early this morning, and it was the matter of, they prided themselves that they were a resort and theme park. It was right there, right? It was within walking distance. This took them out of their element a little bit, but I think it was a great choice.
That's interesting. So what do you think the hurdles to selling this? There's always going to be that immediate demand for people that want to, just get excited about it, want to do it. And there's also a premium, right? It's not cheap. So what is it going to cost to experience this?
Well, right now when we're looking at theme park tickets and stuff like that, it's not really that much more than getting into Universal Studios or Islands of Adventure. Of course, when you're going to add that VIP tour and that, it's going to be adding a little bit more, and the same thing with the VIP access. But what Universal went ahead and did, they really kept that in mind, and being very mindful of their client, their guest, because right now a lot of other parks and things are pricing out the middle class.
Right, exactly.
And Universal,
Disney has gotten insanely expensive.
They have. Yeah, and right now you can do a family of 4. The average for a 4-night stay, well, actually a 4-night, 5-day stay, and going ahead and doing a 3-day park to park with Epic itself with that is running right about 3,400.
Okay, for a family of four. Okay.
Yeah.
And
And that's not bad.
that includes like where would you stay?
So pricing like that, you're going to stay at Lowe's Dockside. You're going to stay at Sapphire Falls.
Okay.
For about $600 more, you're going to probably be doing like Portofino Bay, Royal Pacific, Hard Rock, those types of places.
So take it to $4,000. It's $1,000 a night, which includes all your transfers around to the park. It includes
the VIP access.
And that's VIP access for Epic, or is it VIP access for everything?
For everything.
Oh, so you're in the express lanes, get right up, no wait times or limited wait times, obviously.
Limited wait times. Like there's going to be some kinks here and there, right?
Of course.
And they may end up saying, hey, looking at attendance and stuff like that, we might not be able to get you over to this right now doing your VIP access just because there's just too many people right at this moment. But you're going to be able to get back to it. And so they've really, really thought about that, but it's going to be limited on how many of those VIP, accesses that they allow.
Yeah. So explain what goes along with that VIP access.
You have a tour guide. Well, not on the not from the VIP tour part of it, but from the VIP Express access of it. You're going to be able to get into the front of the line of really any of those attractions all day long. There is a VIP lounge. Sometimes, that's what the tour's breakfast is.
Let's go with the tour. So with the tour, I'm going to get a guide.
You're going to get a guide. You're going to get breakfast included. You're going to get a lunch. You're going to be able to ride any attraction. You're going to be able to.
So you get breakfast and lunch with it as well.
Yeah. And it's a buffet style.
That's
so
fine.
There's something for everybody.
Gotcha. And so what does that cost standalone? If somebody lives in Orlando, just wants to go do that for the day, one person, the guide.
Stand alone with that. Now, if you do stand alone, they do have an opportunity where you can go with, say, another group of people with the VIP. That's going to lower your cost. So if you're looking at $400, or are you going to be looking at, you want to do it by yourself and you're going to be paying, a premium of $800 or $900.
Yep.
That's going to be your difference.
Gotcha. And what is the general feedback that you get on Universal today when people travel and they stay at like a Portofino and, take the little boat ride and enjoy all the things that are available?
All of our feedback has been excellent. And I have to say, we have more guests going over there right now, especially that are in the disabled community, because they are able to, again, access attractions safely. They're not having to face the elements or, miss being in line because they had to leave for an emergency or whatever. So what we are seeing is we've had our families that have always gone, and we have families that have never gone because they felt other theme parks were, catered to their needs a little bit better. And when that stopped, they went over here to Universal Studios and they are raving about it. The guest service at Universal Studios is top of the line. I don't like scary things. And for years, I told my social media director, you will never see me at Halloween Horror Nights. Never. And for 10 years, I stood my ground. And finally, he got me to go, and I had the best time. That was amazing. The food, the haunted houses, the artwork that goes into it, everything that they put into this is absolutely stunning. It's beautiful, actually. I mean, yeah, you've got monsters jumping out at you, but if you looked at the artwork that they put into those houses, and they do have tours that you can do. You can do that during the day. You can do it where there's no monsters or anybody jump scare actors after you or doing anything like that. There are tips and tricks always to be able to navigate that. But I have to say, I've missed out on years of having the opportunity to experience something that was just so cool.
It's funny. My wife, I scared the living daylights out of her the other day. And then without her even trying, I walked around the corner and she just happened to be there. I thought she was upstairs. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I screamed.
And Universal Studios is actually putting I don't want to butcher the name of it, but it's a take of Halloween Horror Nights in Las Vegas. It's its own building and thing. It is going to be extremely intense. The tickets are going to be about $100. You can eat there, you can do all kinds of things, but what they're putting into that is going to be absolutely amazing. I don't think I'm going to go through it during the day, or I mean during the night. I might take that day ticket. I don't think I'm going to do the night stuff, but they are really, if you think about it, so they're Universal Hollywood. Now they're going to be doing Texas, which is going to be focused on younger kids and younger families, which is needed. And now they've got this, happening out in Las Vegas. So Universal, that used to be the little thing down the road, is really, really expanding.
They're getting big. And they also have, because of things like Harry Potter, there's certain things, just like Disney has with the princess and everything. That's unique. That is, I mean, my kids grew up with that.
Yeah.
And, I did the studio tour in London, where they actually filmed a lot of this and the movie. And it was just really crazy. All the things they had set up. My kids are fascinated. In fact, it's on, I think I believe, because to populate traveltube.com out of the gate, we took a bunch of the old videos that we shot around in different destinations. And I believe that's here on traveltube.com right now. So, and the site, by the way, the site is officially live.
Yay.
We're officially
awesome.
Live. So,
that's fantastic.
Yeah. So we'll keep grabbing great content from folks like you, and, really appreciate your time today. And I'll have you back to talk about everything from agency operations to marketing to anything. But before you go though, what's your best tip for like a new agent coming in to this business? How do you work with new agents, and what is it that gets them going fast?
What really gets them going fast is having one-on-one training, whether that's with the agency trainer, if that's with an advisor, or even the owner. I'm so involved in it that we make sure we do that one-on-one. But I always ask, what is the destination that you really want to focus on? What is it that's got your passion that you either know about already and you've been to, or you just know so much of it because you love that area? And we send them. We send them off to that destination so they can explore it. My view has always been, whatever you're able to explore and have an opportunity to experience, you're going to be able to sell that even better than you would learning on a travel webinar, right?
Right.
It's the experience that makes you a better agent. And that's where I always start them off. They can come on and maybe have not traveled far, but I want to know what that is, because whatever that destination is they're going to hone on, that's exactly where I'm going to send them.
And then when they come back, let's say they go to a resort that nobody in the agency's already been to, what do they do a download on what they experienced and share their insights and all of that, and you spread it around with your other agents?
Absolutely. We always host a meeting right after anybody has gone anywhere, and we have it recorded, and they are able to tell them everything that they've learned about the destination. We share content. We give it to our social media director. That agent is there and they're able to answer questions and do all of those things. We take that time so that our team works as a team. So we have agents we have an agent that's a NASA engineer, of all things.
Insane.
Okay. Yeah. He's a little busy during the day,
Sure.
but when, deals drop and things like that, this group of agents, they get together and they work the system, because every client belongs to the entire agency. So everybody should be able to answer a question.
Oh, that's cool. And it's the reason I ask you that is because that's ultimately our goal. If you just got off, let's say, Icon of the Seas, and you just shared that experience and what you liked about it and right demographic, et cetera. I want to be able to then take the person that went to the resort in Mexico that you haven't been to, bring that here, and then you have a resource for yourself, for your agents. They have a resource, because, I mean, let's face it, I get called to do an interview. It's always at the last minute. It's a 3 to 5 minute clip. How much can you talk about? We've been talking for 39 minutes and it's been very interesting. I think the agents are going to really enjoy it. And then ultimately consumers are going to find these videos, and they're going to hear from people like you, and they're going to be like, wow, okay, maybe that's a person I should talk to, because I don't know if it's your experience, but I find that if I walk out on the street, 95 out of 100 people aren't going to know, what it's like to work with a travel agent, or
Correct.
how much is it going to cost me, or this and that. And I mean, part of our goal is to showcase you and
Mhm.
people like you to be able to dispel all of that before it ever even enters their head.
The one thing I've always told guests too, because I'm going to date myself a little bit, but back in the day when I got into travel, it was a little more cutthroat because travel agency A could charge something, but B could charge something else, right?
Oh yeah.
And if you weren't the second one that they walked into, well, you were kind of out of that booking. The thing is that that cost is already built in wherever the client is booking at on
Yep.
their own or with an agency. It's already there. Why wouldn't you take something that you're already paying for and have that backup, have that insurance policy is what I call us. We are an
Exactly.
insurance. So when something happens and you're on Icon of the Seas and there's a storm or something, airports are down, you're not worrying about it because Shannon's got it. I've
Yeah.
got your hotel. I've already called your work to let them know what's going on. And I've already got you your next flight. So go enjoy that daiquiri and forget about it.
All right. I love it. And on that note, it is happy hour here at traveltube.com. It's always happy hour at traveltube.com. And let me have a little bourbon. No, it's not bourbon, folks. I think it's cream soda, which I never liked. And now as I age, I like it. So
yeah,
it is what it is.
it
Well,
is.
again, thanks for your time. Thanks for those insights. We'll have you back before too long. And I'll
Thank
give you a
you.
heads up when we go live.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Here.
everybody. Thank you, Mark, for having me. I'm so appreciative. Thank you.
You're quite welcome. All right. All right. That was Shannon Bonadurer, and there was some great insights. So really appreciate her joining me today. And I hope you fellow agents and travelers that have found these types of videos, I hope you enjoy them as well. Till next time, I'm Mark Murphy, and this is traveltube.com.